Naiji Glenn asks, usually during the night, I begin to notice more clarity in my thoughts and overall more energy to solve cases that seems dormant during the day. Why does this happen?
That, Glenn, that is the sliding door sound of a neighbor near to me. And as an IG, I have V polar, as do you being an IG, so V modulates your top power, Ni, and therefore environments and time schedules where there's more V around than other times, particularly V that you need to be paying attention to for some reason, that is going to inhibit you doing your momentum. So during the day, for an IG, Ni Alpha in general, that's actually going to be problematic. The normal din of the day, the noise and sounds of daily ongoings. I specifically mentioned V that you need to pay attention to, and this is because if you say at nighttime, technically there's V at night as well, but there's less activity in general because there's more activity among animals during the day more often. So at night, a lot of times there can be, some animals obviously are nocturnal, but even in the jungle, it's quieter at night than it is during the day. So that's just general pretty much anywhere you go. But then also being a human, and Naijis pay particular attention to humans, noises and sounds, motions that come from humans is something that Naiji are going to have a harder time like tuning that out. For example, the fact that I have next door neighbors. As a Naiji, I'm conscious of their sounds. I'm conscious of the sounds I'm making, my voice and so forth. Even though I don't think they can hear my voice right now, I'm aware that they exist, which means I'm not completely thinking about my thoughts and you, the audience on camera, you, my friends here in the room. That momentum, just my thoughts and my friends. But I have to deal with that fact, the sounds I'm hearing from the world and the fact that I give off sounds. This part about the Naiji giving off sounds or giving off, visual signals, that's important because Naiji, as being Ni Alpha, are naturally secretive. And particularly being Naiji, they're secretive about the way they do things. Naiji tend to have a natural secretiveness about their personal process. And so, whether you know it or not, during the day, you're more being seen by the world because the world is awake. This gets back to the Naiji having the ability to sort of conceptualize Ji. So like right now, although neighbors around me probably can't see or hear me, I'm aware of them, which kind of brings them here in the room with me. All mojos can do this to a degree, but Naiji are particularly gifted at actually bringing things from the environment into their mind and sort of incorporating them into their headspace. So that's good when you're trying to do that. When you're not trying to do that, there's a sensitivity issue. Naiji are going to have a hard time tuning out the environment, and that's HSP of the sounds of the environment, but also like a shyness HSP in more like a secrecy HSP, not liking to be seen as you're doing what you're doing. So at night, it's kind of funny because a lot of artists mention this kind of a headspace, as do different revolutionaries and so forth, is that operating at night, there's a feeling that the powers that be, they operate mainly during the day, 9 to 5 as it were. And so at night, there's kind of the V aspect, which is that HSP, that the world has kind of gone to sleep, so they don't hear you and you don't hear them. That's good, that's just kind of like stimulus. But then there's also the G of it. Whose time are you working on? Are you working on someone else's time that's been set aside by another person or culture or system, a meme? A meme is saying when you work. Naiji Ji is very independent-minded Ji, and it likes to work when it wants to work. We're directives, which means Naiji like to work. We actually are very flag-forward oriented, but not in Y and Z ways. So there is often a rebelliousness, and so that rebellious nature can sometimes feel a good momentum from operating at night when the other humans have gone to sleep. Now I can like really think, because it kind of goes along again with the mode reading gifts Naiji have, is there's the ability to kind of like hear what other humans are thinking in a way. And when you are trying to actually hear what your spirits have to say, which is the most momentum for Naiji, you're going to actually have to tune out the Ji. So any environment where there's actually a hint of people and what people do and those noises, your Ji is going to attach, or you're going to have to keep Ziing it, and that'll be annoying. It'll be a battle between Zai and Ji, and detach, and you'll spend most of your time focusing on detaching rather than detaching and drifting. The drifting is why you detach. Another element, Naiji being romantics, they are affected heavily by mood lighting, mood music, mood motifs. So if you think about it, when you go to a movie theater, generally it's darkened. When you go to a nightclub, it's darkened. When you go to a spa, get a massage, sauna, usually it's darkened. It's mood lighting. And that allows you to get into the experience more. The Naiji headspace, your momentum headspace, has a fantastical quality to it and a poetic quality. So things that actually allow you to get more into mood enhance this. So if you kind of think about the Naiji natural headspace, for example, Naiji are very represented in movies, and it's acting, as composers, as directors, as writers. So pretty much that kind of storytelling, cinematic headspace is common for Naiji. And so at night, it's much easier to get into your CinemaScope, a version of your simulator. Your simulator won't have to, during the day, you'll notice that your simulator is going to simulate and do what-if kinds of things in your head about, a lot of times, what's happening. People walking by, family members who are talking to you, things that are on TV, things of this nature. When you see them, then your simulator will go fantastic with it. But it does use the V that it's observing to feed the jukebox. The more you remove that, the jukebox just provides its own story without the world's memes or just ambient stimulus steering it. And those tend to be, yes, the higher, most momentum stories to run the simulator.
As a follow-up question, he also asks, is there a way to create the same effect in the daytime?
Not exactly, but you can get closer to it. So nighttime is going to have some special things to it, which is, well, first I'll say how you can do it. You can approximate things that the nighttime has during the day, such as the feeling of being in a special alone space. You can set that aside, but the nighttime, imagine that a building is going to help you get that kind of special mood space, that special head space. That's a building helping you to create that spell. And you can do that during the day. But nighttime, that's planet Earth. That's Gaia helping you out. So like a womb of like quiet and darkness and often coolness. It gets cooler at night as well. Those three things help often the Naiji in their simulator. So you basically have like the entire force of planet Earth helping you out. That's very empowering. You can do that during the day as well, but you won't have obviously the entire planet Earth backing your play. How to do this during the day? You need to make a special environment, as I said, and there's two major ways you can do this. You can have a set location special place, and then you can do it where you're mobile. So first we'll talk about when it's stationary. Naiji, as has been mentioned in many of the filmings, have a propensity for going kensei, becoming an expert in a given field or discipline in order to like understand everything of existence through that. Studio living. Naiji tend to, for example, if you could, it would be great to have a temple, but since there's not Naiji temples all over the world yet, what you can do is what Naiji tend to do instinctually anyway, which is if they're into photography, then their whole room, their whole apartment will basically be a studio for photography with a kitchen. You know what I mean? That's kind of how Naiji do it. We kind of like make wherever we live, if we go kensei, a temple for what we kensei on, with a kitchen, bathroom, and a place to sleep. That's pretty much it. So it's dedicated to that. Food, sleep, you know, clean yourself up. in this way, you can create a bubble that is of another world. Naiji are otherworldly, given their powers. So the more otherworldly you make your studio environment for whatever kind of work you want to do, whatever kind of thoughts you want to be having, that will help counter the ambient spell that the world's doing, which is most of the people are up, they're going to 9-to-5 jobs, traffic is high, yada, 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 so radios are playing. So you'll need to have a counter bubble. And that can be done really well, again, with like the Kensei Studio. You want to, of course, have it be like a themed location where everything in there is kind of helping to accentuate that visually. But a big component will be sound and communication, which is kind of related. So just ambient sound all around, you want to control that. That can't always be done. Like right now, I don't have the control over that. I'd like to, but if I did, I would be able to drift more during the day than I do now. So that would be the same for you. Also, there is the issue of communication, is turning cell phones off, turning off things that can alarm you. For example, most Z stuff, alarm clocks, things of that nature. If you don't have alarm clock on, and I would actually have where you can't see the clock, just turn the clock around or something. Anything like that, Z-wise, for example, that makes you think, I need to be going somewhere at a certain amount of time. I need to only. If you start trying to truncate your drifting with any kind of Z parameters, it'll make it difficult to do it. So that's another thing that helps about nighttime, is often you're off. And so your Nai can drift as it wants to drift, and it doesn't have to be doing anything except, I guess, going to sleep whenever it gets tired. But when it has to think about other Z constraints, that'll make the drifting harder to do. As far as being able to do this during the day when you're not in your set studio location, although Naiji do tend to do a lot of work in their cave labs, the obvious answer is the wolf pack. The wolf pack is how the Naiji most successfully travels out and about. When Naiji get into conversation, they get extremely worked up, and they kind of mind meld with the people they're talking to, and this is really accentuated when it's with another Naiji in a wolf pack. So if these Naiji are talking about music, or talking about comics, or talking about politics, or whatever they're into, that dialogue will become so energetically interesting that they will tune out. For example, they'll forget that they're supposed to pick up their order from the cashier. They won't realize how loud they're being to people around them. They won't realize how long they've been talking, and are running late to where they're supposed to go. So those elements that may be familiar with you, they can be used to your advantage if you want to drift. Because when Naiji Wolfpack, they start getting their geek out sessions going, the world just melts away. They're in their own headspace, their own special otherworldly zone, and the world will have to fight to get in. The more good energy Naiji are in the Wolfpack, the energy will get so strong that you've seen so many movies. You have 3 or 4 Naiji who are really strong in their zone. The environment has a very difficult time actually penetrating this bubble of otherworldliness they have brought in to the environment, which is pretty awesome.
How does this differ, if at all, with other mojos?
Well, there's some things that I can tell you mathematically that I feel pretty confident about, but then as far as some other particulars, those are questions that we'll need the temples for. That's one of the things I want the temples for, is I want to be able to get good, clean data of what mojos are, and then ask them questions about their lifestyle and their preferences. As for the mathematical elements that I feel pretty confident about, 2 would be interpretive. The interpretive powers naturally are going to be looking for a more magical way of looking at things, and so if the world is putting out its signal too strongly, it's going to be more difficult to let the intangible patterns show themselves, because the tangible elements are so pronounced. Also, there would be the issue with being subjective as opposed to objective, is subjectives are more easily overstimulated, and so again, the nighttime can be a period that is easier for them to work in, because they don't have to have their internal experience be competing with the demands of the environment, which are obviously much more heightened during the day.